Okay, we all hope you had a refreshing break. And as we near the end of our day, we are happy to announce that we will be joined by our final keynote speaker. Since 2003, he has been the founder and president of Cosmos Sports and Entertainment, a leading-edge sports marketing firm in Canada. The company has worked with and consulted over 500 sports and entertainment organizations such as the NHL, MLB, and NBA. It is now with great honor to introduce you all to the leading sports executive, Cary Kaplan.
Thanks, Taylor. And thanks, Stefan. I know there's a bunch of people, a lot of people out there. So just compliments to Ryerson and the group that put this together, the RMA. Like it's a great event. I think you guys are getting really good value here. So really take all of the stuff in. I saw who some of the other speakers are and some of the other groups, and it's a really good group. So I will talk. I like doing these as interactive as possible, but I know it's a big group out there. So I'm going to talk for a while, and then I think we've got about 15 minutes at the end to do some questions and answers and stuff. But I'll try and give you a little bit of a flavor for what sports marketing is and kind of what we do. And Olivia, you'll hear me mentioning Olivia. Olivia is going to help me with the presentation. So sports marketing, I mean, it's a unique time, guys. Obviously, with COVID, there's been nothing like this. I tell people we are in the social gathering business. That's what I've been telling a lot of people in the last year, because no social gatherings are allowed. And I think it's a unique time for you that maybe 2 years ago, if somebody said, let's go to a hockey game, or let's go to a movie, or let's go to a festival, you guys would think whatever, like maybe you'd go, maybe you wouldn't. But I think you guys have learned something that nobody in 100 years has really appreciated, which is social gatherings is a powerful thing. And it's not the same to watch a basketball game on TV as it is to be there, and it's not the same to watch soccer, football, or tennis, or whatever it is, as it is to be in those venues. So that's kind of what sports marketing is, and we'll talk a little bit about it here. Okay. So when you hear marketing, and there's all kinds of definitions, and where you guys are in the Ryerson Marketing Association, I think if I asked 20 people what marketing is, I might get 20 different answers. I think most of you probably get this page. And what this page says, when your parents were in school, it was traditional. It was 1.0. It was newspapers and regular radio, not XM radio, and not there wasn't Apple iPhones. It was traditional radio. You went into your car, and you had X number of radio stations. Television was very traditional as well. And then there were billboards, posters, flyers. So I think you guys get, obviously, that the world has changed rapidly in the last decade. And it's gone from 1.0 to 2.0. And everything is, it's hard to even imagine. Like if I said to you guys, do you read the newspaper? You'd almost not even understand the question. Like some people say, yeah, I read the newspaper, but what they really mean is they're checking the news feed on Google on their phone. So old traditional newspapers and stuff is gone, and it is all social media and video content and e-newsletters and buying online. So I think that's the world you're living in. I think what people don't necessarily really understand is what we call 3.0. And that's what we do. Now, is it more advanced than social media? Not necessarily more advanced, but sports marketing, and I'm going to say sports marketing, I'm going to use sports marketing, and the topic of this is sports. We do work in events and theater, and we do some stuff with festivals and Philharmonic orchestras, but the focus here really is on sports. But you can extrapolate it. If you say, hey, I'm not a huge sports fan, you can extrapolate that to any event where people are getting together. So in 1.0 and 2.0, yeah, you can move from newspapers to online feeds, and you can move from television to streaming. But this stuff's different. If you think of what sports marketing is, it's live. And live social gatherings have three really unique things. So you say, or I would say A, B, and C. So A, people are in a good mood, right? So what does that mean, right? You can see the picture of the people sitting on the right. We did a large cricket event, and we did the largest cricket event actually ever in Canada last year in Brampton. I think that's a picture right out of that. So what I would say about sports marketing is people are in a good mood. And what does that mean if people are in a good mood? So let's say you own a Tim Hortons franchise, or you work at a Tim Hortons, or you're a Ford car dealership. What's the power of getting in front of sports fans? Well, one of them is they're in a good mood. And then, you might say, for those of you who are taking stats or economics, and you say, well, how do you measure that? And I would say, well, you can't necessarily measure it, but I would say if you're Tim Hortons or you're Ford or you're Gillette or you're Tide detergent, you want to be associated with people in a good mood. Because if people are in a good frame of mind and they're looking at your logo or brand or name, they're going to associate positive things with you. So that's that people generally at an event are in a good frame of mind. Good mood. Two, it's a long period of time. So again, if you're looking at a billboard, right? So you're driving in your car, picture you guys driving in your car. You see a sign for 5 seconds, 3 seconds, 10 seconds. Maybe if you're at a light, it's 30 seconds. If you're at a basketball game, you're seeing a sign or an ad for 2 hours. Now think of that difference, right? It's a long period of time that's going to penetrate into your subconscious there. If you really think about it, it's funny, right? That Toronto FC would have a BMO logo on their jerseys, or you would go to a Leafs game and there would be a big logo that says Mr. Sub, right? Like if you think about it, it's very subliminal messaging that they would put a big logo on that. But then if you think further about it, right, when you guys right now, you're all sitting at home and you might think, well, there's not a lot of logos around where I am. Well, I would say that right where you're sitting, I bet you if you looked around on your table, there's logos. There's a logo on your bottle of water if you're holding it here. When you turn your phone on, there's an Apple logo that comes on. There's a Google Chrome logo, probably on somewhere on your screen, there's a Google logo. So, your clothes, right? If you're wearing Levi's jeans, if you're wearing Under Armour hat or Nike hat, there's tons of logos, and that's marketing, right? That is companies getting into your mindset and saying, hey, this is something that you should want to be a part of. Now, some of those are ones that you do by choice, and some of them are that when you go to a TFC game, the players are going to have BMO on their shirts, and you may not bank at BMO, and you may not think that's your bank of choice, or that's going to have an impact on you. But if you're a fan of Toronto FC and BMO's connected for Toronto FC, and you're looking at that for 2 hours, there's a certain level of penetration there. The third one, can't change the channel. So again, you're at this cricket event, right? If you look at the picture of the people sitting there, you're at that basketball game, or you're watching Wimbledon, or you're watching whatever it is. It's if you're in a venue live, in particular, I guess if you're watching Wimbledon on TV, you could change the channel. But if you're in a venue live, which is that social gathering concept, you're there, right? So if there's one ad at a Raptors game that goes on the Jumbotron and it says bank a tangerine or buy Sprite or whatever that would be, you're captivated. Like it or not, that's a sustainability. So if you put those three things together, and just Olivia, go back to the last page for a second. So you don't get that here. If you put all those things together, you don't get all of that at once, which is good mood. Are you in a good mood when you're listening to the radio? I don't know, maybe not, but you're not necessarily smiling. Are you doing that when you're on your phone? When you're at a basketball game, you're more inclined. So again, you're in a good frame of mind. it's a long period of time, and you can't change the channel. So all of that together suggests that if you're a company, if you own a restaurant, if someone owns Burger King, or if someone again wants to get you to buy Kellogg's cereal, this is a really unique form of marketing. And you know what? I used to say, it's funny, pre-COVID, I would always say sports isn't going anywhere, right? There's always going to be sports. It goes back to the gladiators and chariot races. And well, 2020 was, nobody expected a global pandemic. So sports did disappear. I mean, really worldwide, there was a period of time in March, April, and May where there was pretty much not a single sporting event going on globally, or almost none. And now it's creeped back, and you can see how much the appetite is, right? That the NHL and NBA have gone into bubbles, right? Because there's diehard people that love their sports. But again, it only gets back to full level when people are able to come to those buildings. And now you start to see it. I think it was just announced today that 20,000 people are going to be at the Super Bowl. So we're all conservative, which I think is a good thing. And I think Ontario is where it should be on lockdown, and the borders are closed. But I think you get back to a point where fans are going to come to games. Like, I was just on a call this afternoon with the Canadian Football League, and the Canadian Football League, and has to get back to pictures like the picture on the right, because their business is only as good as people coming to games. Okay, so that's kind of my. It's not an official definition. That's sort of our working definition at Cosmos Sports about what sports marketing is. Okay, Olivia. And this is actually our vision statement. One really neat thing, if you look at, I know you had speakers from Pepsi this morning, and my brother actually works at PepsiCo and CBC. I think there's somebody speaking from TELUS and CBC. One really neat thing to do is go online and look at their vision and or mission statements. Because what's interesting is they're not about selling cola or selling detergent or selling services. They're very broad, and they're supposed to be awe-inspiring. And it's not, companies like Disney and Nike and Under Armour, they have some really bold, amazing visions. And it took us a while. I mean, our company, Cosmos, has been around for 17 years. It really took us about, I would say, 3 years ago where we kind of put this to paper. And we're proud of the term. It's only 7 words, but it says that the power of happiness, right? Like, what ultimately is sports about? It's creating happy fans. Cosmos, we're using Cosmos. That's the name of our company. It's another word for universe. But the two most important words there are happiest fans. Because happy, I don't think there's anything at a higher level than being happy. And fans, think of the word fans, right? Short term for fanatic. It's not a patron, and it's not a client, and it's not a customer. Customers, clients, patrons are not what fans are. So it's a great moment. Like, think of when you say you're a fan, right? It comes natural in sports. So you could say you're a Raptors fan, or you're a Leafs fan, or you're a Boston Bruins fan, but you also might say you're an Apple fan. Hey, I'm a fan of Apple. Hey, I'm a big fan of Lululemon. I'm a fan of Under Armour. When you say that, I'm a huge fan of McDonald's fries, right? I'm a huge fan of Starbucks. When you guys get to the moment that you actually use the word fan instead of customer, that means the company has done their job. So I think it's really cool that we're in sports. We use that word all the time. Like, we feel like we kind of have an ownership over that word, because you don't call yourself a Raptors customer, right? You call yourself a Raptors fan. And that's why sports is so cool, that the starting point, I mean, there are some people that go to games casually, right? And they won't call themselves fans. They'll say, oh yeah, I go to Raptors games, or I'm kind of into it when they're in the playoffs. But diehards, that word comes you're proud of saying that word. I'm a TFC fan. I'm a Raptors fan. I'm an Argos fan. I'm a Tiger Cats fan. So again, when you think of marketing in general, the really good companies, the Googles, the Apples, the Microsofts, Amazon, right? Think when people say, I'm a fan of Amazon, or I love Amazon. I'm a fan of the shopping channel. Those companies that get to that level, they're doing something really well. And there's brands, there's shoe companies or purse companies. So again, small word, but those two words are really unique, and we're sort of proud of putting them into our vision. I think that it's a lofty goal, right? Can you really create the happiest fans in the cosmos? Well, that we're trying to do. And by the way, fans is everybody involved. So if someone sponsors a team, they're in some way a fan. If somebody, a supporter, anybody associated with that team is in some way a fan, one shape or form, or we want to get them to that point. So that's our vision. But like I said, it's a really good exercise, guys, to look up some companies that you like and read what they're. Some have a vision and a mission statement. Look up what they say. It's some pretty awe-inspiring stuff. And if you work there, the hope is that the people that work there believe in it and kind of live to that. Okay. Okay, so we just going this one really quickly, but we've that one in the middle, like that's kind of what our business is. We do ticket sales, so we help organizations with their ticketing, we help them with their sponsorship, we help them with their marketing, and we also do something in the middle there called ticket marketing, which is how do you market in such a way that people ultimately decide to attend hockey games or baseball games or basketball games. And that ticket marketing is central. And we've been, we'll show you in a bit here, but we've been lucky. We've got some really amazing organizations we've worked with. Like right now, we're working. The Brampton Beast is the hockey team in Brampton. That's the farm team. The Ottawa Senators. That cricket event that I mentioned. We were involved with starting up rugby with both the Toronto Wolfpack and Toronto Arrows. We've done ultimate frisbee recently. We do curling. We've done rodeo. And that's one suggestion I would make to you guys, like, be careful. I think some of you say, if you're looking at sports or you're looking at entertainment, and you might say, well, I really want to work in basketball because I love the Raptors. It's so limiting. Like, it's very unlikely if you want to work at the Raptors that you're going to be able to work at the Raptors. There's what I mean is there's a long line to get there. So start doing other things. Work in badminton, work in bowling, right? And you guys might be smiling and say, well, I don't like badminton. Okay, but you know what? There's people that are so passionate about badminton. It's in Asia, it's one of the world's biggest sports, or one of Asia's biggest sports in East Asia. If you get excited or get into some sports that people need your help, they may need your help in cross-country skiing or gymnastics or badminton or soccer. So think non-traditional. Well, not soccer so much, but think non-traditional, and I think there's often opportunities there. Won't get into it, but that's how my career started too. And I think a lot of people kind of go through a bit of a road where they're doing a bunch of other things, and then it kind of leads them in the right direction. Okay, so probably the one, I wouldn't say technical, but it's the one thing I want to talk to you about. So there's an evolution of ticketing, and you guys are a big part of it. I say you guys, I'm assuming most of this group is, in their 20s or close to it. Just about in their 20s or in the 20s, where most people here are. Tickets have evolved. So when your parents used to buy tickets, they bought season tickets. You would buy season tickets for the Toronto Raptors or the Toronto Argonauts or the Toronto Blue Jays. And what's happened is, and you guys have, your demographic and your millennials have driven to say, well, we don't want to do that. And the reason is, who has time to go to 81 baseball games? Like, think about that. The Toronto Blue Jays, now they're the extreme, right? Toronto Blue Jays have 81 games, but the Toronto Rock have, and we also work with the Toronto Rock lacrosse. We manage to do a bunch of stuff with them on tickets and marketing. They have, I think, 10 games, 9 or 10 games a year. Well, what if you can't make 2 of those games? Maybe you don't want to go to 10 Raptors games. Maybe you can't go to 41 Brampton Beast games. That's a lot of games. So what the evolution of ticket marketing is that it's not up to the team. The team shouldn't say, we've got 41 games and we want you to buy season tickets. It should be up to you. So we should say to you, hey, when do you want to come to Raptors games? How many do you want to come to and when? And just like Costco, right? The more you buy, the better deal you get. Just like a lot of things in life, right? If you buy in bulk, if you buy season tickets, you're going to get an awesome price. But you don't have to buy season tickets. You don't have to buy 10 Kit Kats. You can buy 1. You don't have to go so that's the same thing. That's the evolution of ticketing. So if you can see on the right, group sales, which is you and your friends coming out to a few Brampton Beast games or a couple of Ultimate Frisbee games, and something which is called flex packs, or partial plans, which is saying you guys drive it. Be flexible. Maybe you can come out to 6 games. Maybe you want to come out with some friends and family. Maybe you want to come up with people you work with. Maybe you want to come out with people you went to school with. So there's an evolving ticket model and not every team has figured this out. So I think, we're trying to sort of be on the leading edge of that and saying, look, we call it fan centric. So in the old days, teams were very product centric. So again, they would say, we're the Brampton Beast. We're the Mississauga Steelheads. We have 40 games. Here's where they are. Here's the price. Now it's saying, tell us about you. Tell us about your schedule. Tell us about your life. And we'll see if we can fit into that with our schedule. But it really is about your guys' personal schedule. You got lives. You're not going to go to a hockey game Friday and Saturday night and Wednesday. You've got school, you got exams, you've got friends, you've got family stuff. So what teams are doing now, and by the way, this isn't a sports only thing. This is what the smartest organizations out there are doing this more and more, which is saying, you tell us what you need, right? I always think of the menu where they have, the pizza place that says, pick your own toppings. Like if I always say, if I owned a restaurant, at the bottom of the page, instead of no substitutions, I bet you guys have seen a lot where it says no substitutions. I would say yes substitutions. I would say we allow every single possible substitution on the menu. Yeah, you're going to pay for it. It's going to be a few dollars extra if you want to have something different on the side of what you're eating, but every single option is available, right? I'll do one really quick story here, for example, and I think I'm not, and those who know me know when I get if I go to a restaurant and I order a sandwich, I don't like salad and I don't like fries. Now you guys might say that's pretty strange. I don't like either one of them, or who doesn't like fries, but neither one of them is something that I like. So what I'd rather do is get a sandwich, and as my side, I'd like to have a dessert, right? Sounds strange to get a sandwich with a apple pie as a dessert. So what I want you guys to realize is when I've done that, I've gone to all kinds of restaurants and I've asked for that. I used to do a lot of traveling and I would ask for a sandwich and then I would say, can I get an apple pie instead of a salad or fries? And every single chain told me no. They either said, no, that's not one of our sides. No, we're not able to do that. No, we can't get that to work in the computer. And then sure enough, the person sitting at the next table was eating apple pie. And I was having fries or salad, which I didn't want. So just think that one through in your head. The answer is the restaurant's wrong. Doesn't matter if it's the policy and it doesn't matter if the practice, the customer in that case is being really explicit as to what they want. And it's the same thing. If you say, I don't want season tickets for TFC. I want to go to 6 games, and 5 of them I'd like to go with my sister, and 1 of them I'd like to go with a group of 10 people, and I'd like hot dogs and drinks to be included, and I'd also like to have a jersey included. The team should be able to accommodate all of that. They sell all of that stuff. So I was saying there, it's like the pizza place that has pick your own toppings, right? That's the power. Pizza place that says, yes, we have A, B, C, D, E, F, G, but also you can make your own pizza. And sports needs to have that concept and be fan centric and say to people, as long as we've got it or we can get it, it's going to be fan centric. It's going to be about you. It's not going to be about us as a team. So anyways, I rambled on a little bit like that there, but I want you guys to kind of hear there's an evolution there. And it's important that you guys think in terms of that for everything that you're doing, right? A lot of companies are stuck in that's our policy. Think how many times you guys have heard that's our policy when something doesn't make sense to you. And you probably don't have a good feeling when you leave that discussion. So I'm saying for sports and sports marketing and entertainment, we try and be at the leading edge of that and say, okay, we're not gonna go for that model. Okay. Okay, so at Cosmos, we've had 10 values that have been part of our company for many, many years. And then it might be hard to read the picture on the left, but it's one of my favorite pictures. So just look really closely at the guy at the bottom. So basically what they're doing there is they're digging for treasure or diamonds on the other side. Look how close the guy at the bottom got. And then he turned around and walked away, right? So that is saying it really talks it talks to all of those things, but it probably talks to the second one as much as anything, is work ethic and commitment. And so if you put the time in, it's really easy to get frustrated. So the 3 they're all important there, but the 4 maybe I'm going to mention are the top 4. And those were the top 4 that we had the day the company opened. Our company opened in 2003. Integrity, first of all, nothing's more important, and don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Unfortunately, there are lots of people and lots of companies and lots of individuals, particularly in sales and marketing, that don't put integrity at the top of what they believe. It's a shame, because companies that are good and honorable and sustainable, integrity is a core value. So don't walk away from it. Work ethic. Not everybody gets what work ethic means. My father worked at IBM for 35 years, and they had a criteria where you were rated from 1 to 4, 1 being the best. And number 4 was always meets expectations. So if you think about that, number 4 was meets expectations, and that's a 4. That was the worst. If you were below that, you got let go. You didn't last at IBM. So number 3 was occasionally exceeds expectations. Number 2 was often exceeds expectations. Number 1 was always exceeds expectations. So work ethic means A plus, right? What you guys can relate to is, do you accept an A? You can get an A for doing everything you're asked, right? You do everything you're asked, you can get an A. It's right there in front of you. It's that plus sign. And do you want to be an A plus? And you guys are now going into an environment where there's 200 people on this phone call. You guys are all competitors. Like it or not, you're competing for opportunities. And it's the A pluses that are going to have a career as opposed to a job. So work ethic, there's nothing bigger than, I think those 1 to 4 in particular are in order for a reason. Have a good attitude, right? People don't want to work with people without good attitudes. Doesn't matter how smart you are. Don't get caught up in the, I had good marks, I'm smart, I know the material. Companies will pick attitude over intelligence over and over and over again. Yeah, you have to have a certain capacity, but be pro company, pro what you're doing, be excited about your work. And then you have to get results. You have to believe that results are important. You can't be saying, well, I'm doing a good job, but if it happens or not, like in the end, companies are driven by profit. That's what businesses are. Profit is the bottom line. There's all kinds of different terms for it. So results are, how did you contribute to the place you're working being successful? So again, this is pretty general stuff, and I know I'm sort of talking outside of really sports marketing here, but yeah, that's what I would say. Those have been 10, and look at each of them, right? You'd think, well, I'm a young student, I'm just learning. Do I really have to have confidence and urgency and leadership? Yeah, same thing. It's, do you want to stand out? Do you want to have a career that you enjoy? You guys are maybe in a position where you have the luxury of doing something you like doing, but you have to fight for it. If you want to do something you like doing, you have to fight for it. And these aren't the only 10 criteria by any means, but we've always found for us these are 10 pretty important things. Okay. Just some of the people we've worked with. So again, what I would draw your attention to here is there's some cool ones on there, and you can look at it and say, wow, they work with the Blue Jays and the NHL. We did, and that's awesome, and trained the Phoenix Suns, and we did some cool stuff with Upper Deck and Connor McDavid's jerseys. But you know what? We've got as much satisfaction launching the Toronto Wolfpack. Or we did a big study for the University of Toronto. You see Ryerson there? It's 10 years ago now, but we did some stuff for Ryerson. Basically, it was a sales program where we helped get sponsors to sponsor the team. That stuff's rewarding, right? Because it may be localized, but that's close to you guys, right? That's what's important. Lazarus, for those who don't know, is esports. There's a huge evolving world in esports. I think many of you guys are in touch with that. I think, again, for us, it's making sure we've got the diversity. But again, didn't know a lot about cricket 2 years ago. Now we're doing a ton in cricket. Hadn't done a ton of rugby until we started those teams. Doing a bunch of stuff in curling now. Women's hockey, that Toronto Six, the logo on the right, third from the top, far right, that's the new women's hockey team in Toronto. It's unbelievable. Some of the top women's hockey players in the world are playing in Toronto. The team hasn't started yet, but in the past, when women's hockey was here, they played in front of 250 people. Well, we want to get that to 2,500 people, right? And also, we've done stuff way outside of sports, like Hamilton Philharmonic Orchestra, right? So you guys might say, "Oh, I like sports." Don't be afraid to get out of your comfort zone and do things that are less comfortable. So again, this is just a sampling. If you guys checked our website, you could see a whole bunch of logos, and that's part of the fun of what we get to do. And these are some of the current ones. I kind of mentioned some of the current organizations and teams that we're working for. And the last page, I'll just sort of give you a few sort of suggestions here for the last few minutes. These are sort of 6 things. I think this is probably, guys, maybe, if not the most important page that we're talking about, it's close to it. So I'm going to talk about each one of these really quickly and sort of, it's, I guess, a tip. I'll jump around. I think the networking one, you think it's probably obvious, and some of you guys might say I'm comfortable, and some might say you're uncomfortable, and Zoom's a different world. But the fact you signed up for this conference, that's a good step. It's a small world. You guys are going to graduate. It is so much easier to reach out to somebody that you can say, hey, I met you a year ago, or I heard your presentation, or I was at an event you did. So networking is not. And the second part of networking is it gets you out of your comfort zone, right? Remember I was saying earlier about, if you love basketball, work in badminton. If you love hockey, what about lacrosse or cricket, or like Do things that are not obvious, and that's networking is a similar version of getting out of your comfort zone. So that's one. Volunteering. People ask me all the time, how do I get to work in sports? There's my first answer over and over again is volunteer. So if there's any of you guys that aren't volunteering, you want to work for the Raptors or the Rock or the volunteer. Don't get it out of your own head that what's my starting salary and I need to make money. Like, the money stuff gets in the way. If you're thinking about money from day one, unfortunately, it's going to be really hard to get there. When businesses start up, you look at big chains, you can look at Amazon or Walmart or Facebook or Cora's. I always think of Cora's Foods because Cora's had one restaurant for, I think, 15 years. Tim Hortons was one place for many years. Those people got in the business to make, McDonald's got in to make fast food and good hamburgers. Walmart got in to provide money back guarantees and great products. Amazon started as a company selling books online. So what I'm saying is, don't think about money from day one. Think about volunteering, and that's what gives you the opportunity to do things that maybe otherwise you don't have an opportunity. Persistence is a big mistake. Lack of persistence. People, particularly your age group, are very afraid. You always get in your head about, I don't want to bother this person. I don't want to annoy them. I don't want to pester them. It's a bad train of thought. If you want to get a hold of somebody, call, email, text. But what it doesn't say with persistence is be polite. It's persistence and polite. If you're persistent and rude, you're not going to get anywhere. But most people are far not nearly persistent enough. And companies, executives are too busy. So if they're not responding to you, it's not because you're bothering them, it's because you're a low priority. So really stick on that. I would bet that 99% of you, I would say the over-under on this call is that 99% of you are not persistent enough. So, which sounds like a crazy number, but that somewhere between 95 and 99%. Very few people have the proper level of persistence to get things done. Do your research, right? You apply for a job. It's not about you. Do your research on the organization. You're applying to work for a city or a rec center or a team. How much research did you do about them? Again, people are way under research. They're thinking about themselves. Don't be selfish. It's not all about you. It's not about the courses you took in school and the fact that you love basketball. That's not what gets you a job. It's that you did your homework and you're thinking, how can I help this organization? You know, oftentimes, and we have a lot of interns we call rookies that start with us at Cosmos. And I say, well, what do you hope to get out of your internship? And they often say, learn. And what I say to them, and I say the same thing to you, is that's great, but learning is a selfish word. So just think that through for a second. Learning is about you, right? So it's okay if you learn, but learning's about you, right? What are you, but a better word is I want to contribute, right? Very few people say that, want to contribute. So yeah, you get to learn, but you also should contribute. Be a chameleon. So that's hard. People, you hear as you're growing up all your life, be yourself. And what I would say, you have lots of different selves. You don't talk the same way to your parents as you talk to your siblings, as you talk to your friends, right? So just take that example. How you talk to your parents, how you talk to your friends, how you talk to your siblings, how you talk to your professor. There's 4 different yous, right? That's 4 people. You're acting different 4 different times. Well, when you're in business, don't talk to an executive at Pepsi the same way as a person who owns their own store, the same way as somebody who's in construction. They're different businesses, different tones, different mannerisms. So be a chameleon. And if you feel like that's not being yourself, that's a cop-out, because you're not yourself. You have many, many different selves. And you wouldn't, just like you wouldn't talk to your parents the same way you talk to your friends, don't talk to a company the same way you talk to your friends either. Don't go into an interview with jeans and a t-shirt and a baseball cap, chewing gum, saying I don't care, because it's not about you. It's about the place that you want to be. And individualize the last point. So when you make a resume, if you send out 10 resumes, they should be 10 different resumes. So if you guys heard that, I wonder if anybody does that here. And you're not even taught that in school, right? It said make a 2-page or make a 1-page resume and then send it out to 10 companies. I would argue about 25% of your resume should change on every single application you do, right? And by the way, if you're thinking that's a lot of work, exactly. It's a lot of work. That's how you get the A+. 10 job interviews, 10 resumes. And if you're thinking again, well, I do that in the cover letter, not enough. 10 job interviews, 10 different resumes. And it relates to research and being a chameleon and adjusting. And that's going to carry you in a lot of different situations if you can do that through your resume. Okay, so I think we're pretty close on time roughly for questions. So I'll sort of open it up for any questions anybody might have.
Perfect. We've been collecting the questions, so I will go ahead and start asking you some of them. Bill asks, in a recent article with Chatham Daily News, you praised the thought of breaking tradition and having ads on NHL jerseys, especially because of the success seen in rink board ads and on-ice logos. What other traditions do you see the sports industry moving away from in the near future?
So first of all, who's the question from?
His name is Bill.
Okay, so Bill. So first of all, so everybody here, awesome job. If you see what Bill did there, he looked me up, right? We're doing this chat. He probably Googled me during the chat and looked up a quote that I did in Chatham. So first of all, just for all of you guys, that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's how to individualize your responses. So first of all, kudos to Bill. Yeah, like some people cling to this concept of tradition, and I argue sometimes with my brothers and my nephews about tradition versus progress. The cat's out of the bag. Like there were years where there were no ads on hockey arenas, didn't have any ads on the boards. It's only 10 years ago where baseball stadiums didn't have ads on the boards, right? So all of that stuff, jersey logos, great. You know how the NHL divisions are now called Honda, Scotiabank? Great. It's great. It can still have the names attached to it. And what I'm saying is you guys are already there. The world is commercialized, right? The arenas never used to be named, right? So don't fight that. The way that leagues grow, the NHL wouldn't be able to play in a bubble, right? You guys are probably thinking it's really cool. I'm watching the NHL in a bubble. There's no fans. So how does the NHL play in a bubble? Because sponsors are spending millions and millions of dollars. So, when you watch car racing at NASCAR, there's tons of logos. NASCAR's got it right. Teams in Europe where they have 26 logos on their jersey, that's great. You're not missing the game, right? You guys aren't being blinded by the Mr. Sub logo on the wall. So all of that, my point is all of that's positive. I think the more the better. It's not tainting or damaging the play on the ice or on the court. Okay.
Yes, very nice. Just a good way of saying that we can still get through and still enjoy all of these events and everything. It's just the different ways that it has to be to make it happen.
Yep.
Another question from Lynn. Did you adapt your marketing strategies when working with non-sports teams like the ROM and Talif Music?
Yeah, great point. We did. And I think it's the same point of being individual, right? ROM doesn't care that our history is mostly in sports, right? ROM wants to know, what do we know about museums? And how can we adapt to them? So I think our thinking on everything is let's understand Tafel music, it's Baroque music, or let's understand the Hamilton Philharmonic Orchestra. And I would still say, that's 20% of our business. We're 80% sports because that's kind of where our origins are. But yeah, you better adapt because everybody wants to know that you care about them. It's even within a sport, right? If we work with curling, the first question we get is, what do you know about curling? And, you know, when we work with the rodeo, what do you know about the rodeo? You learn. But what we do know about is marketing and sponsorship and tickets and PR. And the good news is all of that stuff applies to all these events.
Very good. Another question from Stefan.
Okay.
With the World Cup and Olympics and so many other sporting events happening in such a short amount of time coming up, what are you guys going to do as marketers to create the same in-person happiness and experience while these events are going to be consumed virtually from home?
So say that again. So say that one more time, Taylor.
Yeah. So with events like the World Cup and Olympics planning to happen in the near future, what are you as marketers going to do to create that same happiness and experience for viewers while they're consumed virtually from home?
Yeah, so look, I would say, first of all, I mean, those events, very few of us ever get to go to the Olympics or go to the World Cup, right? So you look at that and say, okay, well, that we're used to watching the Super Bowl and things like that on TV, and they're, you know, they're on streaming and there's a big audience for it. So I think there's lots to do to make that experience better. What I would say, though, is nothing beats that in-person experience. Like, one really quick example, when Toronto FC started, and you guys are too young to appreciate this, but soccer was nothing in Toronto. It's actually, Raptors went through that too, but soccer was really small in Toronto. But people that still loved AC Milan or Manchester United, or they still followed teams overseas. And where Toronto FC did such a good job is say, well, that's fine, but you're not going to see Manchester United live. But you can come down to BMO Field and see the best soccer in Canada live. And yeah, it's not the same level. It's not going to be the same level. But I think that speaks to the fact that there's nothing like clapping and cheering and screaming, and that's what live events do. So I think, you know, it's kind of a roundabout way in answering that question. I think there's lots to do for those situations, but I think they're also, like, think of even, you know, people going to Jurassic Park, like Raptors, right? They couldn't even get to the game, right? People were celebrating when the Raptors won. People are celebrating in large groups. Like, why do people go to Yonge Street? Why did people party in every city across Canada? They're not even at the game, because social gatherings is, right? You watch the game and then people got out of their house. They didn't stay in the house with the 4 people that were there. They're like, okay, I've got a party with 20,000 people. And that's what sports and entertainment does, right? So the cool thing is, guys, no one's had this experience of missing it like you guys are. So that moment when you go to your first sporting event, you're going to remember this one. You might remember the first basketball game you ever went to. You're also going to remember the first one you went to after COVID. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm going to change it for all of us. A question from Adam. If you could work for any one professional sports team, which would it be?
Oh, that's a good question. I like that, Adam. Well, you know, I have the curse of being, so I'm 51 years old, and the Leafs won last when I was -2. So they won 53 years ago. So I have the curse of being a lifelong, I think it's 3rd generation. I think my grandfather on my dad's side was a Leafs fan. So it goes back to like a century old. So I think it's got to be, like, a lot of you guys have teams in your blood. I think there's some blue and white in my blood somewhere. So that's, I don't know, you know, I've got to work for a lot of teams. I don't know if it's so much that I'd want to work for them. I just want to be at that. I just want to make sure I'm at that party. I have a agreement that I have with my friend. I have a good friend of mine named Brandon, and him and I have a deal that we made in 1985 that when the Toronto Maple Leafs win the cup, the 2 of us are going to be in the building. Well, we still have that deal, but it's been a while. So we still have that plan to be there when they actually win.
Mm-hmm. Another question, in terms of different sports, fans, media, athletes, etc., what do you think is the hardest sport to market for?
The hardest sport to market for. I don't know if there's any Look, I think the ones that people aren't as familiar with, like I'll give you an example. We do ultimate frisbee. Okay, so a lot of you guys maybe play at university, and you might think, "Oh, okay, I'm not going to go to see ultimate frisbee." Ultimate frisbee is one of the most fun sports. One of the most exciting live sports I've ever seen. But people don't know that, right? So it's a lot easier to get somebody to go to soccer or basketball or hockey game, but ultimate frisbee is awesome. So a sport like that, where it's so good, but people don't know and they're not familiar with it, those sports are tough. So I think of like the little guys or the sports that are in the Olympics, like swimming, and you watch it in the Olympics, like, oh, that's amazing. And then people don't watch for 4 years. So, I think those things are cool, and they're big accomplishments when you can take a sport like that and get people to actually come out and watch.
Yeah, to be the one to turn it around would definitely be something.
Yeah.
Another question from Isaac. How have your marketing strategies adapted to esports compared to sports like basketball, soccer, hockey?
That's a great question. And we're learning, like esports we work with Lazarus and it's been relatively new. I think that what's amazing, obviously, with esports is, first of all, I think a lot of people don't appreciate the amazing talent that the guys at the top level have. I think now, the NBA and other groups have come around to understand that. So, it doesn't matter what field you're in, right? The best people in the world at anything are really, really talented. And the top esports players, and a lot of you guys get this, they do extremely well because people are watching it and amazed by that. So I think the thing with esports that is the evolution, first of all, companies want to be involved with esports because so many millennials are involved with that. It's now becoming more of a live stadium event. It is in Asia. It's been for a while, where people in China, Japan have gone and there's full stadiums watching esports. So I think it's evolving. I think it's the players are generally very fan friendly because they are fans a lot of times. So I think there's probably more similarities, I would say, than there are differences from a marketing esports. I think the mistake is thinking it's not a sport. I think you can market esports. You can also market things like chess, right? You got to make it fun, right? You have to make those things fun for people watching. And if you do it, one of my brothers works in horse racing, right? And a lot of you guys maybe don't appreciate or haven't watched that sport. You can make it really exciting and really fun. And I think it was to the previous question, those are good challenges, right? Taking those sports but esports is growing at sort of an unparalleled rate.
Yeah, definitely all about your approach.
Yeah.
Okay, and I will end it off with one last question from Mikkel.
Okay.
And that is a little bit different, but how important is work-life balance to you, and what does that mean for you?
It's a great question. So really important, but I'm glad you asked that question because I think people get confused on what work-life balance is. So I'm glad you asked that. So, and for 2-3 minutes here, if you guys listen to the answer here, because I think there's some merit to this. If you work all week, you guys are going to work. If you work from age 25 to 65, let's say 25 to 65, you're going to work about 100,000 hours. So I hope you heard that number. 100,000 hours of work. You can do the math later. It's good if you like your job. So work-life balance means that your Saturday night should be more fun than your Wednesday afternoon, right? That's work-life balance, right? You should be. And people that don't say that, and it's not good to be a workaholic, and you have to have that balance where you've got friends time and family time. But here's the catch. Some people go too far the other way. Say, hey, I want work-life balance, and that means I end work at 5:00. And if somebody emails me at 7:15, I'm not going to take that email. That's not work-life balance. That means you're going to have a job, not a career. If you really like your job, you're not looking at the clock and saying, hey, how's your day going? Pretty good because I'm going home in an hour. That's not a good job. That's not a work-life balance. That's all life, little work. So if what you have to do is saying, look, I'm going to I want to like my job and enjoy my job to a point that that if there's something going on the weekend, or I have an important call to make at night, or I have an email to do on the weekend, or a text, or I'm all over that, or I'm posting something for my team or my organization. I want to do that because I care about the restaurant I work for, the bank I work for, the team I work for. So it's a really good question, but the trick, guys, is getting caught up the other ways. A lot of people, when they ask that question, they mean, I don't want to work that hard. I want to work, but I want to have a life. And I get it. But don't go too far the other way either. Have a great life. Make sure you're doing all those fun things. But a better expression to me than work-life balance is work hard, play hard. So care about them both. Don't lean too hard the other way. Just make sure you're doing both.
Very good insight. And thank you, Carrie, for your presentation. It was great and definitely very good to have included the sports marketing industry within our conference this weekend. It was great to have you.
Great. Oh, thank you, guys. Sounds like a great agenda. The guys did a great job putting the agenda together. So really take advantage of the next couple of days.
Great. And to all of our attendees, we're just going to be taking a quick 2-minute intermission, and we will be right back.